The sky above Earth had always been a mystery. To most humans, the stars were beautiful lights in the night. But to those who had been watching closely, it was something far more dangerous. For thousands of years, Earth had been unnoticed by the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Until now. The Vritax, a race of highly intelligent aliens, had been lurking in the shadows of space, watching humanity grow. They had traveled across the stars, conquering countless worlds, but Earth had always been a low priority. After all, Earth's technology was primitive compared to theirs. Why bother with a planet full of weak, unremarkable beings? But something had changed. The Vritax High Council had received strange signals from Earth, signals that hinted at an unusual power. They decided to investigate, sending one of their finest scouts, Saris, to explore the planet. Saris was calm, confident, and trained to deal with any threat. Armed with cutting-edge cloaking technology, his ship became invisible to the human radar systems. He floated silently above Earth, scanning the planet with his advanced AI systems. To him, humans were insignificant, a species that lived in chaos, unaware of the larger universe. But still, Saris had a duty, and he was here to observe. Descending into the atmosphere, Saris chose to begin his exploration in the middle of a bustling human city. He carefully walked among the people, keeping his cloaking device active, remaining hidden to everyone around him. Humans seemed so weak, their lives so fragile compared to his own species. They fought wars, struggled to survive, but none of it mattered. As long as he stayed unseen, he could gather information and leave without anyone even noticing. But there was one thing Saris had not expected. As he moved through the crowd, observing humans in their everyday lives, he noticed something unusual. Despite their wars, despite their struggles, they were all so connected. Strangers helped each other. People smiled at one another, even when they were tired or hurt. There was something in their eyes, a spark of resilience. It was something Saris had never seen in any other species he had encountered. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to these humans than he realized. Saris was distracted. He had been so focused on the technological weaknesses of Earth that he hadn't considered what might lie deeper within these creatures. He was so absorbed in his observations that he didn't even notice the human child who had wandered into his path. The child was no older than 5, with wide eyes and a curious smile. She didn't notice Saris at first, too busy playing with a ball. In a moment of thoughtlessness, the child ran into him. Her small hand brushed against his arm, barely a touch. But the moment her skin made contact with his, everything changed. A strange energy surged through Saris. His entire body froze. His AI systems malfunctioned, and his vision blurred as memories of humanity's past began flooding into his mind. He saw wars, violence, and yet, in the chaos, something else, something unexpected. He saw humans fighting, not just for survival, but for something more. They fought for their families, for their homes, for each other. He felt their anger, their grief, and above all, their determination. The force of the emotions was overwhelming. Saris felt an energy like nothing he had ever experienced. It was raw, untamed, and unpredictable. He staggered back, his breathing rapid, his mind racing. What was this? How could such a small touch cause such a massive surge of power? The child, unaware of the chaos she had caused, giggled and ran off, leaving Saris in a state of shock. His heart pounded in his chest as he struggled to regain control. His cloaking device flickered briefly, and for the first time, he felt vulnerable. What had just happened? Was it some kind of defense mechanism? Or was this the true nature of humans? Saris quickly retreated, his mind in turmoil. He had come here to study Earth, to understand its weaknesses, but what he had just experienced was beyond anything he had expected. The Vritax had always prided themselves on their control, their power. Yet, this tiny creature, this child, had shown him a force greater than technology, greater than any weapon. He had made a mistake. He had underestimated Earth. He had underestimated humans. But what exactly was it about them that made them so dangerous? Saris had never experienced anything like it. The surge of energy from the child's touch had left him rattled, his mind in a whirl of confusion. For a moment, he thought he might lose control. The Vritax were a race of perfection, their technology superior to any others in the galaxy. But what he had just felt was something beyond his understanding. He immediately retreated to his ship, cloaked and hidden in the shadows of the sky. Saris was a trained scout, never allowing his emotions to cloud his judgment. Yet, today, something had broken through his composure. He needed answers. He activated the AI systems on his ship, accessing vast databases of knowledge about Earth and its inhabitants. The Vritax High Council had underestimated humanity for centuries, believing that humans were weak, primitive creatures with no place in the vast universe. But that child's touch, it had felt like a pulse, something powerful and raw that came from deep within humanity itself. As the ship hummed to life, the AI began its analysis. It started pulling up information on human physiology, biology, and history. It sifted through thousands of records, trying to find some explanation for the strange event that had just occurred. Saris sat still, waiting, his thoughts racing. What could possibly explain the energy he had felt? And then, the AI made a startling discovery. Warning. Data anomaly detected. The voice of the AI broke the silence. Energy patterns detected in human physiology. Unknown source. Saris leaned forward, his heart pounding. Unknown source. What did that mean? The AI continued its analysis, pulling up more data. Energy surge recorded during contact. Similar phenomena detected in human history. The AI displayed a list of events, some were minor, some catastrophic. There were stories of humans surviving deadly encounters, sometimes against impossible odds. The AI even mentioned moments of extreme emotional power, times when humans had fought back against much stronger enemies with nothing more than sheer willpower. The AI paused, processing the data. It took a moment before it spoke again. The human physiology contains a hidden energy field. Potential for extreme power output when triggered. Saris couldn't believe what he was hearing. Could it be possible? Was there a hidden power within humans, something that had been dormant for millennia, only to awaken in moments of great stress or emotional intensity? Could this be the reason humans had survived so many wars and hardships, their species thriving in the face of death itself? The revelation hit Saris like a thunderclap. This was no ordinary species. These humans weren't weak, they were survivors. The energy that had surged through him wasn't just a fluke, it was a response. A response to the touch of another being. A defense mechanism. And that defense mechanism was deadly. Saris ran another scan, checking Earth's history for more information. The AI displayed records of human battles, not just on Earth but on other worlds too. There were rumors, whispers, really, of humans fighting in wars across the galaxy. But this data was buried, hidden deep within ancient files. The most terrifying fact was that the humans had faced threats far beyond their own capabilities. And each time, they had fought back, often to victory. Humans didn't rely on technology alone. They relied on something far more terrifying, their emotions. It was the source of their strength, their survival. Their will to protect, to fight, to love, these things gave them a power that no alien weapon or technology could ever match. Saris felt a chill run down his spine. He had spent so many years studying galaxies, analyzing species, but he had never encountered anything like this before. The Vritax, with all their advanced technology, their AI, their superior ships, could not compete with the raw power of human emotion. It was something that couldn't be measured, something that couldn't be predicted. Suddenly, Saris understood. The Vritax High Council had made a grave mistake. They had seen Earth as a weak, insignificant planet. But now, Saris knew the truth: humans were a species like no other. Their will was the strongest force in the galaxy. As his mind raced, he realized something even more terrifying: this energy was not just something humans used in defense, it was a part of them. Every human carried this power, buried deep inside, waiting to be unlocked. And the more he thought about it, the more he feared the implications. If the Vritax dared to invade Earth, they would not just be facing a planet of primitive humans. They would be facing a species that could rise to unimaginable levels of power in a heartbeat. An unstoppable force. Saris had learned too much. The galaxy's most dangerous secret was hidden on this tiny planet, and now, he had seen it for himself. The Vritax would be foolish to underestimate humanity any longer. But could the galaxy's most advanced race defeat humans when they were backed by a power they didn't even fully understand? Or had they just woken up a sleeping giant? Saris couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that clung to him. The truth he had discovered about humans, their hidden power, had shaken him to his core. The Vritax had always prided themselves on their technological superiority, but what he had just learned made him question everything. If humanity truly had this immense, untapped power, then the Vritax High Council had underestimated Earth in a way that could cost them everything. Saris sat in the cockpit of his ship, staring at the holographic displays as they showed more data about humans, battle histories, stories of human resistance, and strange events where their will had overpowered seemingly insurmountable odds. Every record pointed to the same conclusion: humans were unpredictable, resilient, and, most terrifying of all, they could fight back against overwhelming forces. As the ship hovered in orbit above Earth, Saris thought about the child he had encountered. Her innocent touch had unleashed an unexpected force. It had been more than just a defensive reaction, it was a signal, a sign that humanity's true power had been awakened. His mission was supposed to be simple: observe, assess, and report back to the High Council. But now, he felt that there was more at stake. Much more. He needed to understand this power more deeply. He needed to see it in action. Saris decided to visit a human military base, hoping to observe how they prepared for war. The Vritax had always thought of humans as weak, primitive creatures, but now he was starting to see them in a new light. It was time to see for himself what kind of resistance Earth could muster when faced with a real threat. He cloaked his ship again and descended silently, landing in the shadows outside the base. His cloaking device made him invisible to human sensors, allowing him to move unseen through the area. The base was busy, soldiers moving with purpose as they prepared for something. But Saris wasn't sure what. He could see human soldiers, tough, determined, but still not as advanced as the Vritax. Their weapons were primitive compared to his own, their armor clunky and outdated. But as he watched them interact, something struck him. The soldiers weren't just preparing for war, they were training. But it wasn't just about the guns or the machines. They were preparing themselves mentally. One soldier, in particular, caught his eye. His name was Captain James Walker, a tall, muscular man with piercing eyes and a steady presence. Saris watched him closely as he led his team through an intense combat simulation. The soldiers moved in perfect coordination, their every action carefully calculated. But there was something more. There was a fire in their eyes, something that went beyond their training. As Captain Walker shouted commands and led his team into battle drills, Saris realized something: the humans weren't just relying on their technology or tactics. They were relying on something deeper, something that came from within them. Their minds were focused, their spirits unbreakable. It was as if they were fighting not just for survival, but for something far greater. Saris, still cloaked, moved closer, hidden among the shadows. He observed as Captain Walker's team successfully completed the drill, their synchronization flawless, their determination unmatched. But when the exercise was over, something surprising happened. Instead of celebrating, the soldiers gathered around Captain Walker. They weren't talking about their success, they were talking about something else. The soldiers were sharing stories, stories of loss, of pain, and of love. They spoke of families back home, of people they had fought for, and the sacrifices they had made. It was clear that this wasn't just about winning a war. It was about fighting for the ones they loved. As Saris watched them, he felt something shift inside him. These humans were not like the other species he had encountered. They weren't driven by a need for power or conquest. They were driven by emotions, by love, by duty, and by an unyielding desire to protect their own. Saris began to see the full scope of humanity's power. It wasn't just about fighting back in the heat of battle, it was about resilience. The strength to keep going, even when everything seemed lost. This was something that no advanced technology or weapon could predict. It was a force that could not be measured. And it was a force that could change the outcome of any war. Meanwhile, across the base, Captain Walker stood silently, looking up at the sky. He didn't know it, but he was being watched by someone who had just discovered the terrifying truth about humanity. He was a man who had lived through pain, loss, and countless battles. But every day, he fought for his country, his family, and the future of his people. Saris realized that the Vritax High Council had miscalculated. This was not just a war for territory or power, it was a war for the heart and soul of humanity. And the more he watched, the more he understood that humans had something far stronger than advanced technology or artificial intelligence. They had a will to survive, a strength of spirit that no alien race could ever conquer. Saris had come to Earth thinking he would face a species ready to be wiped out with ease. But now, he knew that what lay ahead was far more dangerous than he had imagined. Humanity wasn't ready to give up, and that made them the most terrifying enemy the galaxy had ever faced. The darkness of space stretched endlessly as Saris hovered over the Earth's atmosphere, his heart pounding in his chest. He had learned much in the past few days, but nothing had prepared him for the sheer determination he had witnessed in humanity. The soldiers he'd seen training at the military base weren't just prepared for war, they were fighting for something greater. Saris now knew that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't its technology or its armies, it was their spirit. The Vritax had made a grave mistake underestimating them, and now, the consequences were about to unfold. The High Council had given the Vritax forces the order to strike Earth. The invasion was inevitable. Ships were already positioned in orbit, ready to bombard the surface. The Vritax had arrived in full force, but what they didn't expect was the sheer resistance humanity was about to offer. Earth was no longer a helpless world. It had awakened. Saris, still cloaked in his ship, observed as the first wave of Vritax warships appeared on the edge of the Earth's atmosphere. The ships were massive, equipped with advanced cloaking devices and weapons capable of devastating entire cities in mere seconds. They looked almost invincible. But as the Vritax fleet advanced, something unexpected happened. A signal flared to life across human military channels. It was a warning, an alert that Earth was ready for the fight. Across the globe, humans were mobilizing. In every country, military forces were on high alert, preparing for what seemed like certain destruction. But there was one thing they had that the Vritax didn't fully understand: unity. No matter their differences, humans were coming together in the face of a common enemy. Governments and civilians alike were pooling their resources, using everything they had to prepare for the battle. Saris watched as Earth's military commanders activated their defense systems. Massive orbital cannons, once thought to be experimental, lit up the sky, firing bolts of concentrated energy at the incoming Vritax ships. For the first time, Saris felt a shift, an unsettling feeling. The humans were not simply hiding or fleeing. They were fighting back. The first battle began in space. Vritax warships cloaked themselves and attempted to slip past Earth's defenses. But the humans had anticipated this. AI-powered sensors, much more advanced than Saris had ever imagined, detected the cloaked ships and fired missiles directly at them, forcing the Vritax to decloak. The clash was devastating. Explosions lit up the sky as Earth's military unleashed everything they had. Starfighters, designed for quick, nimble combat, zipped around the Vritax ships, dodging laser blasts and returning fire with precision. The humans had no choice but to fight smart, and they did just that. Every shot they fired was carefully calculated. The Earth forces weren't just using brute strength, they were using their intelligence and creativity. On the ground, civilians were not sitting idly by. Human ingenuity became evident as cities transformed into fortified zones. Engineers and scientists worked around the clock, building new defenses, hacking into enemy systems, and creating weaponry that turned the tide of battle. Even without the massive fleet that the Vritax commanded, Earth had something the aliens didn't expect: resolve. In the midst of all this, Saris saw the power of humanity's resilience firsthand. He had been wrong about them. The humans were not just putting up a fight, they were adapting, learning, and outsmarting the Vritax at every turn. Each new Vritax assault was met with a human counterattack, more brutal than the last. The Vritax, who had once believed they could obliterate Earth in minutes, were now facing a formidable resistance that wasn't just fighting for survival, it was fighting to protect their future. But the Vritax were not going to back down. Saris knew that the aliens had the upper hand in terms of technology and firepower. Still, the humans proved time and again that they were willing to sacrifice everything to protect their world. Every time a Vritax warship was destroyed or an alien ground force was pushed back, Earth's resistance grew stronger. The fight was intensifying with each passing hour, and Saris couldn't look away. He saw Earth's resolve in the eyes of the human soldiers, especially Captain Walker, who was now leading a counterattack on the Vritax ground forces. As he watched Walker's team fight with unwavering determination, Saris felt a strange sensation. It was something he hadn't felt in a long time: respect. The Vritax High Council had believed this would be an easy victory. They had assumed that Earth's forces would crumble under their assault. But the longer the battle raged, the more it became clear that they were facing an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered. Saris didn't know what the outcome would be, but he knew one thing for sure: humanity was no longer weak. And as the Vritax forces continued to battle, he couldn't help but wonder if this unexpected resistance would turn the tide in humanity's favor.